crucifixion of Christ and his resurrection and his putting Israel as a nation, as a people on pause, it began 2,000 years ago at the day of Pentecost. And it is still going on, and we are praying and looking, and hopefully with all the signs that are going around, that we're going to be that generation that's going to see the rapture, and we'll be out of here. And once we're out of here, as we're going to see in a minute when we really get to our lesson, the clock for the Jews will start ticking again, because after the rapture begins the tribulation. And the tribulation is God's method of generating the redemption of his people. So the Jews been on pause for 2,000 years. I was going to write all this stuff up there, but I can explain it from the paper you got, and we'll all have the same thing. I write so bad anyway. So the church age is known as Christendom. And I also want us to remember the uniqueness of this age and the precious reality that God moves in his spirit into the human spirit of the redeemed person is exclusively for saints who come to faith between Pentecost and the rapture. Other saints are redeemed by grace through faith in the economy that God had going on during their lifetime. The ones in the tribulation, when the 144,000 are preaching the gospel of the kingdom, they will be saved by grace through faith. All that's true. The uniqueness, though, only believers that are saved between Pentecost and the rapture will have this blessed, unique experience of the permanent abiding presence of the Holy Spirit in them, which is the presence of the Godhead, because wherever one is, all of them really are. So that's what's going on now. Now, the last week of Daniel's 70th week is reserved for the tribulation. Now, on the bottom right-hand section of that chart, there's a multitude of several scriptures, because when you're reading through Daniel and Revelation, 42 months, 1,260 days, 1,290 days, 1,335 days, these time spaces or elements are referred to by all of those prophets, and they all are talking about the same thing. The division of the 7 years amounts to 3.5 years of a fragile and artificial peace between the Antichrist, who has emerged as the world ruler, and the nation of Israel. And he is responsible in his authority and his role as the prince of this world, will secure a reasonable amount of peace and safety in Israel for 3.5 years. And as I'm going to try to explain next week, in particular, we talk about the third temple, it is as though he waits until the temple has been completely constructed before he betrays Israel and not allow them to do their sacrifices and then put an image of himself in the temple. When that happens, the last half of these 7 years, known as the Great Tribulation, which simply means the most severe judgments from God's wrath will be upon the earth and the people that are there, and ultimately the climax would be Armageddon at the coming of the Lord, and then the kingdom. Now, having said that, what we're going to say, we're going to turn to our book, the Bible, and read Daniel chapter 7, but in particular, we're only going to deal with verses 24 through 27, because that's the part we're going to talk about today. Daniel chapter 9, verse 24 through 27. It says, 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city, to finish the transgression and to make an end of the sins, and to make reconciliation for iniquity, and to bring in everlasting righteousness, and to seal up the vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. Now, first thing, I want you to understand the emphasis on thy people and the holy city. So you'll know who he's talking to when he gives his prophecy. Thy people is who? The Jews. And the holy city is where? Jerusalem. So remember, the church era has now ended. God's economy in the church is over. It's a historical fact. So now he again begins to